A very good evening to you. Welcome to another Hot Button Issue broadcast right here on Choice Television. With me, Timothy Polion. We'll be ending a little bit after 10 o'clock with the clip that peaked, and of course later I'll be taking your calls. Well, right now in St. Lucia we have 3 political parties, and of course we have 3 political leaders. And I have one of those individuals on my broadcast this evening. We'll be focusing on politics, of course, a number of issues currently before the St. Lucian public with regard to the economy, with regard to matters involving healthcare, education, and of course, topping that list would be crime. And we normally hear a lot from our political leaders with regard to promises that they're making to the electorate and hoping that their party will win and eventually they'll become the prime minister and very often the minister with responsibility for finance. My guest this evening is the political leader of the minority opposition Lucian People's Movement, and he is Mr. Therold Prudent. Welcome to the program.
Good evening, team, and thanks for having me here.
I think it's the first time you're making your appearance on Hot Button Issue.
Yes, I am.
So I consider this to be your first major television interview.
Yes, I would say so.
Over the last few days, you've gotten a lot of attention. The LPM has gotten a lot of attention. And it's coming from the effort that you made to get permission from the police to undertake a march. Why do you think that the LPM stumbled along the way with regard to the procedure?
One of the reasons is we perhaps just overlook a few of what was in the public order. For example, stating the purpose of the march, which is very important. And we've been saying that to the whole media, the purpose of the march, but in our own letter, we sort of like omitted that. We also did not include the number of persons who we believe will be at the march.
But do you know, speaking tonight,
yes,
if the march takes place on October the 8th,
yes,
the number of people will be participating in that exercise? Do you have an idea? Any idea at all?
We have no idea. However, we like to be modest by saying with the LPM 150. It could be more than that, but we are looking at 150 persons or more, marching with us on that particular day. The problem with trying to put numbers or figures here is that realistically you really don't know, and at the end of the day, you might decide that it's 150 when you may end up having much more than 150. Then the question you have to ask yourself is, will the march be stopped? Will the police decide that will you be arrested because you've gone over what you've stated on paper? That is not very clear in terms of the order, the Public Order Act, and we are hoping for the best in terms of the end. But I must say that in the body of our letter, we did include a route for the march. We said it was going to be on October 8th. We said that it was going to begin from the Vigil Field at 4 p.m. We said it was going to go along the route of the John Compton Main Road or Highway, and we said it was going to end at the outside of the Derek Walcott Square, opposite the cathedral. And we also asked for a 4-hour period where once we arrive at the Derek Walcott Square to be able to host a public conversation with the people of St. Lucia. So I think that was met, in terms of the content of the letter. And what really raised our suspicions here, we've had good relationships with the police department, and we want to maintain that. We don't want to make it look like LPM is some renegade political organization that is seeking to have a collision with the St. Lucia Police Force. We need them. We always need their guidance, and we've always been supportive of them and their work here in the country. But we in the reference area, we had we were asking or requesting to have a public march. However, in the body of the letter, we interchanged public march with public protest, and based on the commissioner's letter, it says that the act does not recognize public protests, but it recognizes march. But then what we were thinking of is a public protest means that you're against something or for something that you agree with or disagree with, and that's why you're making known publicly how you feel. A march also says the same, that you're allowed to walk through a particular area and still exercising your right to say that you are for against us a particular issue. And what raised our suspicion is the fact that we felt it was a bit of a nitpicking in terms of wording, or should I say semantics, you know, and it meant basically the same thing, even though in the act, in the public act, if there's no word called public protest, but anyone who understands what the meaning or definition of public protest understands, it means the same thing as a demonstration, a march, a public protest. You know, it amounts to the very same things.
The advice coming from the police is that you should resubmit that letter.
Yes.
Have you done it?
We have. We have respected or what they've said to us and the guidance they've offered, and we have complied with that. So yesterday we submitted the letter to the Commissioner's office. Our chairman did that yesterday, and we're now waiting for a reply from the Commissioner's office.
Okay, the information is that application for permits for marches or exhibitions, according to Section 10 of the Public Order Act of St. Lucia 2008. 1. Any person who desires to organize any public march or meeting with a view to exhibit any visual images with or without sound in a public place shall, at least 3 days before the day on which such public march or exhibition is to take place, apply to the Commissioner of Police for a permit. 2. Every application under subsection 1 shall be in writing and shall contain particulars of A, the name or names of the person or persons desiring to organize the public march or the exhibition to which the application relates. B, the purpose or purposes of the march or the exhibition. C, in the case of a public march, the point of departure route and the point of termination of march, or in the case of an audio-visual exhibition, the place of exhibition. D, the hours between which the march or the exhibition shall take place. And E, an estimate of the number of persons who are expected to take part in the march or to witness the exhibition. Does that take away the spontaneity, being spontaneous?
Yes, it does. Within a democracy, and this is no disrespect to the Public Act or the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, but within a democracy, the right to public protest should never be contingent on the mercies of a government or its apparatus. It should be based on the collective will of the citizenry of a particular country, in our case St. Lucia, and a general consensus within them, or among them, to be able to march. And by having all of these rules or special rules that are put into place, it almost seems to be creating a lot of bureaucratic impediments in the way of citizens being able to voice their objections to what is currently happening here in this country. And it almost makes it very difficult and almost like a controlled atmosphere. Yes, we're a democratic nation. However, we're not as democratic as you think, because because there's always this chain of command or control that will decide what you protest against, where you protest against, and how you protest, you know. And to me, it's not enabling to trying to achieve a democratic state, which is what we've been trying to do here for years.
How does an LPM administration plan to deal with that? If anything at all, what do you plan to do if you get into office?
Yes, if the LPM is successful in coming to office, we will abolish the Public Act. We will rewrite in such a way that there will be a form where if you want to protest, you would simply not have necessarily have to write in the case of what is being done right now, but you would state that I wish to protest on this day. This is why we're protesting, and you know we would like to have it at this particular location. We would then have the police department review and make sure that they have the manpower and that they're able to give that manpower to the particular marchers and allow them to march. Simply as simple as this. This is how the LPM is going to take it. We're not going to go through all the bureaucratic maneuvers that happen here currently, and just to be able to march. People should have that right, and it should be simplified in such a way that the citizens of this country feel very free to march.
But don't you think on the flip side that the regulation is basically in place to ensure that if there is a march, there would not be any kind of disruption with regard to the business of the day? You do not want, for example, the marchers to infringe on the rights of other people.
And I quite agree. And I'm not saying that it will be vaquivage. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is if citizens want to march and it will not infringe on the rights of business people or on the rights of other citizens, then we have to allow it. The same way, those citizens who do not wish to march must learn to respect the rights of those who want to march, because this is what a democracy is all about: tolerance and sensitivity to the needs of other citizens in the country.
You're still looking at October the 8th to have the exercise?
We are still looking at October the 8th, unless the Commissioner's Office deemed that it is not good. And we hope that they will accede to our requests, and we will move on from this very divisive kind of arrangement right now in terms of trying to get to the march.
Any information has been given to you as to when the authorities will be telling you that whether permission has been granted or not?
They have not given us, based on the Act, it should be 3 days. However, they have not given us an indication as to when they will respond. But having said that, knowing the way we've dealt with them over the last 5 years, when we've had public meetings or we wish to have movie nights, say for example in Grosley and so forth, they've been very gracious in terms of how they've handled, their responses to us and in a timely manner, and we expect that they will do the same for the march. The only difference is we've never asked to march. And perhaps this is the very first time, this is the very first time the LPM has ever taken off to want to take it a little bit further than just being in the news or just doing social activities around the country and in Grosley and so forth, and actually wanting to bring the citizenry of this country together to protest.
What is the purpose of the march?
The purpose of the march is to highlight the unemployment situation here in this country. We have 24.9% unemployment generally in this country. It's almost 49, 50% among young people. All we're saying is, with the march, it allows us to be able to highlight this very serious issue of unemployment in this country.
Are you saying that it will take, or it should take, a march for the powers that be, the government of St. Lucia, the government of the ruling St. Lucia Labour Party, and for Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony to come to the realization and to understand that we have a serious unemployment situation on the island? I think he's aware of that already.
I think he is aware. I think he is aware. But what has been happening for the last 4 years is, if we don't talk about it, maybe this is how the Labour Party is thinking. If you don't talk about it, then there's not too much pressure for us to deliver, you understand, in an expeditious manner. And so they would prefer that we don't talk about it. They would prefer that we only talk about NICE. And I have said an LPM government, unlike any other political organization, will keep NICE in place. However, we will just expand the program and we will try to do our best to enhance it. and to ensure that we continue, because it has served its purpose here.
Still on the
in the
unemployment
country.
issue.
Yes, yes.
Obviously, St. Lucians who are supporters of the LPM, the United Workers' Party, and the St. Lucia Labour Party
Yes.
are are feeling the effects of the unemployment situation.
Yes.
It does not discriminate.
No.
Do you expect that people who are supporters of the government
Yes.
will participate in that process? Because people do things along
Yes.
political lines.
Yes, but we have extended an invitation to supporters of the St. Lucia Labour Party. We've also extended an invitation to supporters of the United Workers' Party, including supporters of the LPM. When you go to bed at night, team, no one knows if you're UWP, SLP, or LPM if you can't eat for the night, if you go to bed hungry, because you don't have the job, you don't have the means to be able to put bread on your table. And I am saying that this isn't about the LPM, and this is one of the reasons why we've said categorically, do not come with any political symbols, do not come with any political T-shirts. Basically, come in colors that depicts the St. Lucia flag, and because this is a patriotic march, it's a march for St. Lucia, and this is essentially what we're trying to do.
People judge the success of those events
Yes.
By the turnout.
Yes.
What if a small number of people turn out for this particular activity? I'm sure that the assessment will not be a very favorable one for the LPM.
The LPM is a we're not cowards. We're not the kind of organization that gets ashamed because people think that we should be ashamed because we were not able to pull out a huge crowd. And so at the end of the day, we hope to surpass expectations. However, if it be that St. Lucians do not deem that they should be marching for unemployment and the other things I need to talk to you when we return, then so be it. It's the choice that they make not to let their voice, or not to allow their voices to be heard on such an important issue.
And of course, we'll focus on the other issues which would have caused the LPM to organize this march. And also, I'll be asking the political leader of some solutions with regard to the unemployment problem as well as other areas of concern as we continue our discussion right here on the broadcast Hot Button Issue. My guest this evening is the political leader of the Lucian People's Movement. You'll get to pose your question to him in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Hot Button Issue on Choice Television with me, Timothy Polion, and my guest, Mr. Therold Prudent of the Lucian People's Movement. The reasons why you decided to organize this march, reason number one you said was unemployment. Yes. What are the other reasons?
The other reasons that we have is the state of healthcare in this country, the deplorable state. We also want to talk about the judicial system here in this country. And for many years, apart from having Tapio, which seems to be the elite in a sense of healthcare in the system, what is provided here by successive governments, both the United Workers' Party and the St. Lucia Labour Party, has basically been, for example, St. Jude's Hospital, where you've had so many people in this country complain about the adequate facilities, adequate medicine, adequate everything there is. And we believe that, you know, we've always had issues with a government. For example, we have the wellness center and this huge hospital that was started by the Chinese government and completed by the Taiwanese under the United Workers' Party. And still today, we have not been able to make good use of this particular building. And we felt that with talking about a 4-lane highway from Castries to Grosley, then that monies that you are putting into here could have been used to complete this hospital and give St. Lucia the kind of comprehensive healthcare system that it needs.
With, my apologies,
yes,
with
yes.
regard to the unemployment
Yes,
situation,
yes.
healthcare, among other issues,
Yes.
not particularly judiciary,
Yes,
those two political parties have a track record.
yes,
At least the St. Lucia Labour Party and the United Workers' Party can say that they have played a pivotal role over the years
Yes.
in terms of tackling the unemployment situation in St. Lucia with
Yes.
limited success.
Yes.
Healthcare, they have done their bit.
Yes.
But the LPM,
yes.
what record does the LPM have to stand on with
Well,
regard to those issues? You do not have a record.
The LPM...
All you have is you just have promises.
That's right. Well, the LPM can't have a record because St. Lucians have never elected the LPM to office. For the last 60 years, all we've had in this country is musical chairs between the St. Lucia Labour Party and the United Workers' Party. We've seen what they're able to accomplish or what they've been able to do here in this country. But I'm saying the only way to know if the LPM is able to deliver is when we present our slate of candidates and if the St. Lucian electorates decide to give us an opportunity to serve. And if they give us an opportunity to serve after 60 years or more of the same, then you can start to judge the LPM. Then we can start talking about the track record of the LPM. But before this is ever done, to be fair to the LPM, one can't ask for a track record of a party that has never had the reins of governance here in this
Do you
country.
think it doesn't have anything to do about fairness when you're talking about literally life and death?
Yes.
And if you have reposed your confidence in those two main political parties over the last several decades and they have failed you,
Yes.
why should you want to subject yourself to more abuse, this time from a new political party, an unknown political party?
I doubt it's, you would call it abuse. We've had the example in Dominica, where we had two major parties, which was the Dominica Freedom Party, and we also had the Dominica Labour Party. Eugenia Childs, in her time, she was very strong. She was very well respected, not only in Dominica, but throughout the Caribbean and the world, because it was very rare you would find a woman prime minister here in our region or part of the world. And yet still, after such dominance by a political party, after her death, and all the squabbles and fighting that went on within the Freedom Party, someone by the name of Edison James had the strength to be able, and the foresight to be able to put together a third party, which today is called the United Workers' Party of Dominica. They contested elections. They did not win the first elections, but they became the major part, one of the major parties in Dominica, becoming the main opposition. By the following elections, Edison James was elected as the first Prime Minister of Dominica as a third party, putting the Freedom Party into oblivion. And even today, there is no talk of the Freedom Party, a dominant party in Dominica. And people don't think, well, by voting UWP back in Dominica, they were taking a chance with their lives.
Do you think that the LPM has the chance, any kind of opportunity, any chance, you think, to supplant the United Workers' Party or the St. Lucia Labour Party? It seems to be impossible.
I don't think it's impossible. Maybe I'm a political optimist. I have many people who know me know very well. I'm very tenacious in terms of what I want to pursue, the things that I want to do. And the LPM is a political organization that I am ready to stick my neck for, lay my life for, in terms of it becoming a major party here in this country. And I believe with the way things are going on in this country, with persons who are satisfied with the performance of the St. Lucia Labour Party, and those who are very much tired of the fighting that has continued in the United Workers' Party since the death of Sir John from 2007. They've been fighting. They fought throughout the entire 4 or 5 years they were in office after John Compton's death, and they're still fighting today after 4 years in opposition. And so,
don't you think that is therefore tarnishing the image of politicians on the whole in St. Lucia, and giving the impression that basically all politicians are the same? They're basically after, they're out to look after their own interests. They will fight out of office, they will fight in office, and basically that is to the detriment of the people. The people come last.
Yes, I think it does not do very well for other politicians who has good intentions. But I will say this. My aim is to remain with the Lucian People's Movement. However, if I am not successful in this coming elections, or if I am not close enough, if I can't win, which I believe I will win, here in Grosley, but if I do not win the elections and I come very close, I will remain as political leader of the LPM. But if I'm blown out in a scenario of the next elections, I will gracefully bow down, support the LPM, and seek to have the right leadership take the LPM forward. And it is something that we don't have here among other political organizations, which they just don't know what time to call it quits. They just don't understand what time it is to allow younger leadership, fresh blood, to be able to come through the ranks of their party. And when the fresh bloods come, then you find those who've been there feels as if, well, boy, you've invaded our home. You understand? And this is very bad for politics and bad for all politicians everywhere. Yeah.
Are you making reference to Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony also in his capacity as political leader of the SLP?
I am. I believe by now he'd come, when he first came to us in 1995, 1996, I believe it was, from when the leadership of the St. Lucia Labour Party was handed to him on a platter. He came on the premise of 2 terms, and then he's over with it. His deputy adhered to the 2 terms, which was Mario Michel, and recognized that he had served his time and moved on into the sunset. And it seems as if the criticisms that were made of John Compton back then by Dr. Anthony and the St. Lucia Labour Party, that he'd served for too long, and that he'd become autocratic, and that he'd lost touch with the people of St. Lucia, and that no political organization or government should have a leader for that long, seems to be what we have on course now. After 20 years in office, 15 years as Prime Minister of this country, we even had the discussion on the constitutional reform, and he is not one of those who favors, after all of the hard work that was put into in the preparation of the constitutional reform proposal, he's not one of those who is in favor of term limits, you understand? And that's a fact. And so he's becoming, if we're not careful, he's becoming our John Compton of the modern era.
Should this be his last term?
I think so. I think he should bow down gracefully and allow someone else within his political organization to take on the mantle of responsibility for leading the St. Lucia Labour Party. That's not my business to say, but it is my business because you want what's good for the country. So I want the United Workers' Party to have the right people in the United Workers' Party, the same way I want the LPM to provide the St. Lucian electorate good people who they can trust to move the country forward, and the same goes with the St. Lucia Labour Party, because governance begins at the root of selection of candidates, and as candidates are elected, from whatever party, the winning party, able to make that transition or transcend the dichotomy between politics and governance and going into governance and administration, then we know very well whoever will be there, St. Lucia will always be in safe hands.
Shouldn't politicians know when to quit? And in this particular case, maybe Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony believes that by dint of being in office for so long, at the helm of St. Lucia, at the helm of the St. Lucia Labour Party, that he's better equipped than most, having been there, to continue to serve at the helm of the government.
But what is going to happen is exactly what happened to the United Workers' Party. George Mallet never became Prime Minister of St. Lucia under Sir John. It's very likely that Philip Pierre will never become Prime Minister of St. Lucia under under a St. Lucia Labour Party administration. So by the time you get to the point where Dr. Anthony decides to resign or to renege office or leave office completely, Philip Pierre has lost his relevance and his appeal to the people of St. Lucia. And this is exactly what happened with the United Workers' Party, and there was a dearth of leadership within the United Workers' Party and still is even today.
But clearly at this time, should we be allowing the people to have their say on issues of that nature and let the people make a determination as to whether they want Dr. Kenny Anthony to continue to serve at the helm of the SLP, that will be for the delegates,
yes,
and to serve at the helm of the government? The electorate on the whole will make that determination.
I think the electorate should make that determination, and I agree with Dr. Anthony on the areas of, for example, that a republic may not be a bad option, you understand, for St. Lucia. I support that, and we are divided in the LPM as to whether or not this should be, but I'm speaking not for the LPM, but for myself as Therold Prudent, and I think it's the right way to go, but it will also allow us, since in this case we may be able to vote, hopefully, if it's done the right way, vote for the Prime Minister of the country, then we may have a scenario where St. Lucians decide who the leadership of this country will be, and not necessarily like we have it in the Westminster system, where the party wins the general elections, goes in, and the majority of elected members decide who the Prime Minister will be.
So right now, for Prime Minister of St. Lucia,
Yeah.
Dr. Kenny Anthony, Alan Shastney, Therold Prudent.
Yes.
What say you?
I would love a challenge like that. I'd like at any point at all to be able to debate both Dr. Kenny Anthony and
No, forget the debate.
Well,
to serve as Prime Minister of St. Lucia.
Yes.
Do you believe that the people will give you this opportunity? A case of choosing from Therold Prudent, Dr. Kenny Anthony, and Mr. Alan Shastney?
I believe when they listen to me, and that's where I go back to the debates, debating on the various aspects of governance of this country, debating on ideas, on fresh ideas as to move the country forward. I may be the underdog, maybe in the minds of some people, but you never know how the people may decide.
Okay, so what talent do you have?
I
that
have,
the likes of
Yes.
Dr. Kenny Anthony and Mr. Alan Shastney do not possess?
I've worked in diverse countries of the world, Tim. I have worked in areas like Malaysia. I've worked in areas like Japan. I've worked in areas like Thailand and Singapore as Director of International Business. I've also worked in areas like Switzerland and in places like Mexico and Brazil and so forth. And I bring to the fore a depth of knowledge in terms of the global world and in terms of business and in terms of how to invigorate economies and communities with fresh ideas for job creation. And I think that when I am able to speak at length in terms of my experience and in terms of what I've been able to accomplish, that St. Lucians will surely understand that, you know, this is not a man who just craves for power, because I don't crave for power. If I had craved for power, I would have been a member of the St. Lucia Labour Party or the United Workers' Party. I am LPM. We're the underdog. So someone who is a member of LPM can't be hungry for power or crave for power. I also, as an author, I have written books. My last book is Glory Days and Tragedy, of which you know that a movie called 21 Days was based on my book. And I've written extensively, and I also bring a level of community activism, meaning that as a young person, I was involved in community development, programs. I was involved in as president of youth clubs in Groselay. I was also involved as a musician and doing a number of things. And this is what I'm able to bring back to Groselay, and that's what I'll be able to bring back to the rest of St. Lucia, being able to bring communities together.
But you don't have the experience of having served in any government.
No,
Dr. Kenny Anthony has that experience,
Yes.
and also Mr. Alan Shastney served one term between 2006 and 2011.
Yes, the same could be said of many persons who have served as president of the United States of America, where they never came from having any experience at all in having been in government, but strictly, you know, having, for example, Hillary Clinton, her first experience was not in terms of governance. She supported her husband until she was elected as a senator in New York and served as a senator, and then later ran and is running again as president. So all over the Caribbean, we've had persons who have never served in, served in government and have been able to move in.
But at least Hillary served in the Senate.
Yes, likewise, Edison James never had served in any government and was Prime Minister of Dominica for some time. You had Skerritt, who had never been Prime Minister, but unfortunately became Prime Minister upon the death of Rosie Douglas and then Charles afterwards. So you've had Tom Adams, who became Prime Minister in the 80s and so forth. So.
You're watching Hot Button Nation. When we come back, we'll be taking your calls. My guest this evening is Mr. Therold Prudent, the political leader of the minority opposition, Lucian People's Movement. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. We'll put a telephone number on screen right now so that you can call with your questions and comments for my guest. He is Mr. Therold Prudent. Just before we take the calls, you wanted to make a comment?
Yes, I also wanted to add a little bit more by saying that I've been very rounded in terms of my academic background. I do hold a master's degree in government and politics, specialization in international relations. I do also have a graduate certificate in international law and diplomacy, and I also have 2 Bachelor of Sciences, one in travel tourism management and one in management and communications. So I believe, those experiences of having worked in diverse areas and so forth, including my academic background and training, rounds me and prepares me for the task ahead.
It's a very difficult one.
Yes.
And we'll get to that in just a moment, but we have a call. Good evening. This is Hot Button Issue. You're on the air.
Good night, Timothy.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
And good night to your guest.
Good night, sir.
Mr. Prudent, I'm a member of the Central Party.
Mm-hmm.
And I like your comments.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I hope everybody listening.
Yes.
Now, this is about 25 years I'm in labor.
Yes.
I get up and down.
Yes, sir.
I'm still in labor.
Yes.
But I don't know what's coming behind.
Yes.
And I think Timothy might know who there. Because that's when they call Mabel and Chastney.
Yes.
I sell the Vanguard for This is George Odlam.
Yes.
And Timothy used to help her mom
His
selling the
mom.
voice paper. I'm true, Timothy?
Yeah.
The
Yes.
voice paper?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then that's 1979. 79, they had the plywood city, Timothy.
Yeah.
79,
But do you have a question for Mr. Prudent?
I have a question.
Go ahead,
Yes,
please.
sir.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
if you get into power, how you can fix the unemployment rate?
Yes.
Because they say it's 50. I
Yes.
know under this is Judge this is Compton, it was 15, 20 or whatever.
Yes.
How you can put it? How you can put it under 50?
Okay,
And
sir.
I
Yes.
will listen to you on the background. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you so much for calling, sir.
Yeah, a very good question, and thank you very much. The Lucian People's Movement have put into place a program which is called the International Youth Development Program, where our understanding is most governments are starting from the era of colonialism down to the Cold War. We always believe that countries owe us to give us money. And with an LPM government, our plan is to reorganize every single embassy and consulate abroad. We will bring back every single one who is serving right now back to St. Lucia and pick the correct persons or people to be able to serve there. Not just persons who are going out as international legislators, that's what they really ambassadors are, but persons who have skills both in diplomacy and both have skills in marketing and sales, being able to sell your country.
All that point, sir. We have a call.
Yes.
Good evening. Hot button issue. You on the air?
Hi, good evening, team.
Good evening.
Yes.
And good evening to your guest.
Thank you.
Just two questions quickly. The first question, Mr. Prudent, where do you work at present?
Currently, I am an administrator at one of the hospital system. Yes.
Okay, good. You made a statement. I'm a member of the St. Lucia Labour Party, and you made a statement about Dr. Anthony wanting to. Let me just explain to you. If you're not in the belly of the whale, you really shouldn't.
Okay,
quote
caller.
anything.
Wanting to what? Wanting to what?
No. He said he wanting to serve as prime minister and not give up the helm. There is a system we use, and I don't know if it's within your party, but we actually nominate people at our conventions, and Dr. Anthony was unanimously voted in as our leader. He did not say, I want to be. The question is posed, he is nominated, and the system went forward. Mario Michel was part of the system. Mr. Pierre is part of the system. And that's a system, that's a pure, legal, open, democratic system that is free for even St. Lucians to observe the process. It is not even a closed meeting. You understand? So that is what it is. So I don't want you to stay there and quote or say things that you're not aware of. Speak about your party and what you intend to do, what your qualifications are. Fine, I heard that. But never as a politician, don't dwell into other person's business and quote things or pretend to understand what you don't know about. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for calling, sir.
I disagree. I was asked a question and I answered the question. I said that at the end of the day, I, as member of LPM, want the best for the St. Lucia Labour Party, want the best for the United Workers' Party. You want to be able to know at the end of the day that our country, because it's the men that you select as members of your party and members who will contest an election, who will end up being or serving in a St. Lucian government. And so if term limits is something that the country puts together, we don't care what you really do in your party, but I was talking in terms of our country having term limits within the Constitution of St. Lucia, and the Constitution supersedes all other political constitutions.
Good evening. Go ahead with your contribution, caller.
Yeah, good evening, Tim.
Hi, good evening to you, sir.
Therold, good evening.
Good evening.
Quick contribution, please.
Yes, Tim. Tim, I want to tell Mr. Prudent, listening to him, he has made some valid and important points. And I don't believe he should at least take on people who do not know what they're about, like the last caller there.
Thank you.
But Mr. Prudent,
Yes.
the question I want to ask you, because maybe you know who's speaking there. I know you from a little boy on the platform in Grenadier
Yes.
for the UWP.
Yes.
Okay? The question I want to pose to you. Okay, right now, with all your expertise and where you have worked and everything that you have done so far, how can you translate that, what you have learned overseas, and bring it to our forum here and make it work? Because listening to you, I believe that you're more qualified than even Dr. Kenyon himself. So how can you bring that to the forum and have it to work in our system?
Thank you so much for calling, sir.
Thank you. I'm going back to the International Youth Development Program, where I've said that we will be recalling all ambassadors, all workers who currently work for our consulate. We are going to reorganize and restructure our consulate system to be able to have those persons be accountable to the people of St. Lucia. So at the end of the day, our focus will be to be able to get governments to agree to give us technical assistance, whereby we have 300-400 young people going around the world, working in studying in diverse countries of the world, not for a degree program, but for what I would call a practical hands-on program. And whilst at the same time you're studying a foreign language in these particular countries and being able to come back home when you finish the 8-month course or year course and begin your own businesses here in St. Lucia. We would divert a lot of the monies that go into STEP towards allowing young people and even older persons who went out to study to be able to set up their own businesses in St. Lucia and to infuse a system of business atmosphere, commerce, and be able to have this country back.
We have a caller 9. Good evening.
Yes.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi. Good evening to you, ma'am.
Good evening.
Sorry. And good evening to your guests.
Good evening.
Good
My
evening.
question to Mr. Prudent is, I would like to know his views on St. Lucia having a sex offenders registry.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
I have supported it, and I have seen the social indiscipline here in this country for the last couple of years, and I have made a statement whereby I have certain misgivings about the amount of predators we have in our own country here, and the fact that young people are not allowed to be young people, and they are basically you can't wait for them to feel like they have a little breast, they have a little whatever, to feel that grown men can go after them. And in a case like that, when grown men are taking advantage of young people, an LPM government will support a sex registry here in this country to allow us to be able to identify the predators in our midst.
Good evening. Hot button issue?
Good evening, Mr. Prudent. How are you doing?
Good evening, how are you?
Do you believe that debates should be part of our political process?
Could you repeat again?
Do you believe that debates
Yes.
should be part of our political process?
Very
Thank you, sir.
Very much so, and thanks for the question. Very good question. I think that we have so many pappy shows that go into elections and hype that people that are not even voting based on issues. You are basically voting for gla-gla, what is before you, what is presented to you by the political organizations. And you don't even have a chance to be able to understand what they stand for on a wide range of issues that would, in the end, affect your lives. And by having the debate, it allows every single politician in this country, every single leader in this country to be able to account for where they stand on a particular issue and allow voters to be able to make an informed decision.
Another call. Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening to you, sir.
I'm happy that you are on air tonight because I'm actually balancing between watching your show and watching the Republican debate.
Yes.
And I must just say that I really applaud the American system because I believe here in St. Lucia, politicians love to take cover and they love to come and make a big show on stages and bad talk each other and bad talk people. Mm-hmm. And then when it comes to the real issues, they hide away from it.
Yes.
They come a month later before being voted into power and they bring you the manifestos. And I really feel these manifestos do a disservice to our country because they put a lot of perks there for their friends. They put a lot of things that are counterproductive to the growth, the fundamental growth of our nation. They are short-sighted and they are just perks for people to vote for them. So I really admire what I'm seeing there tonight. I'm actually looking, like I said, between your show and the Republican show. And I said that, I really looked at that show to laugh and have fun looking at Donald Trump, but I'm seeing that the level of competence, the level of debate that is coming out from that is really very good. And I wish St. Lucia would, at one point, maybe the next election, could have a debate between probably Alan Chasney, Kenny Anthony, and yourself, or Alan Chasney, Stevenson King, and yourself, to really bring out the points, because I feel we as St. Lucians are being shot. We are being shot by politicians. We are not being given the real deal. They are giving us crappy policies, crappy governance, and we are only being given a choice to make a decision every 5 years, which is wrong.
That's right.
Thank you so much. That was our last caller. Let's take the final comments from you, sir.
Yes, I thank the callers here this evening, and I think that most of the questions were very good and constructive questions. I also want to make an appeal to everyone here in the country that you can join us on the 8th of October for the march. You're not marching for the LPM. You're marching for yourself. You're marching for your children. You're marching for the future of your country. And ensure that if you're going to be in this march, you're marching for St. Lucia, so please leave your political colours behind. Please leave everything that has to identify with political parties. Please leave that behind and join us for the march, and let us make it a resounding march in terms of sending out the message against unemployment, our judicial system here, deplorable healthcare system here, the high rate of employment in this country, and also the high rate of violent crime in this country. Let's make it a resounding march and march for St. Lucia, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being my guest on this evening's Hot Button Issue, Mr. Therold Prudent. As always, thank you so much for watching the broadcast and contributing via your calls. If it's Wednesday, we discuss a hot button issue on Choice Television. Time now for the clip that peaked.
They're saying that, look here, pay based on the weight of your vehicle. Mr. Speaker, what is the analysis that was presented? If you buy a car that falls in the weight category of a Class A vehicle, of private vehicles, a Spark, for example, what is the duty that one pays on a Spark, as opposed to the duty that one would pay on a Prado, a Pajero, or even a BMW? Because, Mr. Speaker, if the argument is that you are going to contribute towards maintenance of the road network by the class of vehicle that you drive, but, Mr. Speaker, you are already paying for that in the duty.
It doesn't change if the car have gas, or if it have oil, or if it have water. It doesn't change. Nor does it change if the car has passengers. Because the fundamental difference between a goods vehicle and a passenger vehicle is a goods vehicle carries goods and a passenger vehicle carries people. That is the difference between taxing a goods vehicle and the change in taxing a passenger vehicle. So a Prado is a passenger vehicle and a pickup is a goods vehicle. So the goods vehicle carries goods, it carries cement, it carries blocks, etc. And the passenger vehicle carries human beings and animals, dogs, pet dogs. Pet dogs. So you wouldn't wait if you have an Alsatian in it, or wait if you have a poodle.
And that's the broadcast. Thank you once again for watching. My name is Timothy Paulier. Good night. See you next time.